Welcome back to Wealth Mavericks, the podcast where we help doctors unlock the secrets to building generational wealth. And today, we're talking about having the right people in the right seats.
More is said about your company culture by what you tolerate than what is written on the walls. So if you are tolerating non-performance, I promise you, you are repelling top-level talent who want to show up and perform.
Welcome back to the podcast. We're so glad you're here. I'm joined today again by Joe, and this one is geared for practice owners, business owners, or anyone who has a hand in hiring staff. So part of healthy growth is, of course, being able to hire and retain good people to help you grow. But how do you assess who's actually the right fit? And how do you define the qualities you want in an employee? And just as important, how do you make sure that the staff you already have are the right people in the right seats? So we use a tool that is very helpful, and today we're going to walk you through it. Joe, you help our practice owner members in our elite level of membership use this tool. And of course, we've used it ourselves here at Terra Firma. Before we walk our listeners through it, tell me why having this level of clarity is so important for practice and business owners.
This is probably one of the most common, I guess I'll use the word issue. You know, it's one of those common issues that I end up dealing with our practice owner members almost immediately and almost every time. And I think, you know, it's one thing if you're at a level where you have like core values as part of your company culture. If you have an intentional company culture, let's put it that way. It's one thing to have those things written on the wall somewhere, but I think more is said about what you put up with than what you say are your values. So putting up with personnel who are not adhering to those core values or whatever it might be, that actually says more than the words that are written on the wall. And so, and also, like, I think firing people is as important as hiring the right people. And firing people is really, really hard. I know very few people who enjoy the firing process. There are some people who do. And if you're one of those psychopaths, then great. Maybe you can teach us something. But I think it's hard because, you know, you see a vision when you bring somebody on to your organization. You see a vision for them and you want them to experience that. You wouldn't have hired them if you didn't think that was the case for them. And then it's frustrating when they show up into your world now and you tolerate non-performance. And that toleration is actually a repellent to top-level talent. Top-level talent want to show up and they're like, I'm here to work hard, and I want to see the other people around me do that. But when they see, you know, Johnny Q show up and he's like just not pulling his weight, it's like, oh, I understand this organization better, and not in a good way. So knowing that people don't love firing people, they end up, like you said, slowly allowing this to manipulate their company culture over time. And I think for a lot of the doctors, typically, you know, you graduate from medical school, you go into a specialty, you launch your practice, and you usually start small. And you hire a handful of people who help you as you grow, and it kind of just builds and builds and builds over time. And you may have had someone who's in the wrong seat for a decade. And your organization feels the weight of that. And so I believe in assessing these things. And so a tool that we use, that we deploy almost every time and almost immediately when we engage with someone, is called the People Analyzer. And this comes from the concepts inside of EOS, or the Entrepreneur's Operating System. Very powerful system. And I highly recommend anyone read the book Traction by Gino Wickman. It's kind of a bigger book, and it's a little bit more academic, if you will, or like instructional. There's another version that he wrote called Rocket Fuel, and it's told a little bit more like a story. So if you enjoy more of a story, then read Rocket Fuel. If you like more academic, then EOS Traction to understand that. But the people analyzer is a tool that they develop to help you understand, do I have the right people in the right seats? It's one thing to have right people, but you can have the right people in the wrong seats, and that induces chaos as well. If you have the wrong people, there's like a solution to that. So it starts with, and I don't mean to devolve too much into this. We probably should do a whole nother segment on the VTO, the Vision Traction Organizer. That is actually the first step that we take with most practice owners. But you have to gain clarity around, what is my company culture? What is it now, and what do I want it to be? And if there's a difference between those, we state it clearly, we bring that to the staff and help them be aware of it. But let's assume that you have a company culture, you have core values, and you see people who are not adhering to those. So the people analyzer, this is a tool. Very simply, I'll explain it just in very simple terms. Go read Traction, go do other research on this. But you basically want to list out each employee, like on a spreadsheet, just list them out, like, row 1, 2, 3, all the way down. So list out everybody. And then across the first few columns, usually it's 3 or 4 columns, are your core values. So if your core value is trust, I don't know what, I'm just going to make them up. It's, integrity, hard work, and doing the right thing. I don't know what, I'm just making it up. Right. So those would go across the columns. And then for each employee, you're going to ask yourself, do they sometimes represent this, always represent this, or never represent this? And you're going to give them a plus if they always do, a negative or minus sign if they never do, and a plus/minus if they sometimes do. That exercise alone will tell you a lot. And so just literally run through that matrix and just create that for everybody. In the next columns over, you're going to ask them what we call the gets it, wants it, capacity to do it question. So there you want to, like, in their position. Okay, so the first section is like, are they the right kind of people? The second is, are they in the right seat? So right people, right seat. And ask about their position. Do they get it? Quote unquote, get it? Or are you having to constantly, do their work for them or constantly correct them, whatever do they get that position? If yes, do they want that position? So you can have someone who gets the position, but who's like, they're not happy there. They don't want that position. Let's say they do want it. They get it. They want it. And then do they have the capacity to do it? Or are they burned out? Are they, moving elsewhere for that? So from a very simplistic standpoint, again, there's a lot more nuance to this, but that will provide a lot of clarity around your staff. Do I have the right people, and are they in the right seats? Again, we should do a whole, maybe even multiple episodes on the VTO, the Vision Traction Organizer, because how do you uncover those values in the first place? How do we create a company culture that you really want?
I think we've talked about it a bit on here, but we could definitely talk about it more.
Then go back and watch that one, and then
we'll have Kenny link it in the show notes.
Yeah, that'll be good. But that's the idea. Right people, right seats. When you find and uncover a misalignment, again, more is said about your company culture by what you tolerate than what is written on the walls. So if you are tolerating non-performance, I promise you, you are repelling top-level talent who want to show up and perform. So you need to cut that out quickly.
And of course, that's easier said than done. Like you said, firing people is very hard, especially if they've been around a long time and there are, friendships and emotional ties. In your opinion, what do you think can be taught and learned with the right conversation and training? Like maybe you just realize like, wow, I've never trained this person the right way, or there's room for growth here, versus some things are just like deal breakers. You cannot teach that. So how do you assess that?
So you do have to make a determination. Is this a character issue or is this a systems issue? System could also include training. So it almost always boils down to one of those two things, or it could be a combination of both. It could be the wrong person and wrong seat. So there is room for that. Just give yourself an assessment. This is where, and I have literally hired thousands of people over my career, and fortunately I haven't had to do that much firing. But when I've fired people, it usually is preceded by a performance improvement plan. And so performance improvement plan is an official process that you can go through to kind of, like, I call it, you guys remember Johnson and Johnson, no more tears, baby shampoo? So it's like no more tears firing. Like you shouldn't get to firing somebody where they are shocked and surprised. It's usually, now there are cases where that's going to need to happen. But typically, if you can have like a performance improvement plan and say, hey, these are the specific things that need to be corrected over the next 30 days, I'd keep it short and do check-ins no later than weekly with them during that performance improvement plan period of time. Sadly, I have not seen many performance improvement plans actually work. It just ends up with the person not changing, and they tend to go start looking for another job. And then in 30 days, they're like not shocked when you say, hey, didn't meet the criteria, we need to let you go. So that's the first thing, is like assess, like, is this a personnel thing? If it's a character issue, then you don't keep them. If it's a training or a system issue, put the training or put the system in place. Give them the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, this is on me. But when you make the determination that this is just no longer viable, then, and you want to be fair, in some industries, it's standard to pay, some kind of severance or some kind of package when you're terminating the relationship, to provide them a safety net as they go or whatever it might be. But I have found that most of the people, and we've helped a lot of our doctors, sadly, have to let people go. And what they feel, I will tell you, on the other side of letting those people go, your staff will rejoice. They will usually multiple people will thank you because it's been holding the office down. I've experienced this personally. It's like, I've had people say, I don't know what you were thinking in the first place anyway. Like there's a lot that's to it, and you've wrapped your head around it in an emotional way in something that should not be emotional. So be decisive too, so when you do determine, hey, someone is not a fit here, you've got to be decisive. And I'll just tell you, take the action sooner than you would naturally want to.
Rip off that Band-Aid, because it's just going to sit and fester and get worse.
Yeah. Because the Band-Aid's actually not helping anything in this case.
No. And I think another really good, simple tool is 2 questions you can ask about that person. Like if you're kind of on the fence, it's like, if they came to you and said, I'm leaving, I got another job, how would you feel when they said that? Would you be really...
Would you fight to keep them? It's a yes or a no. If they came to me and said, I'm leaving, would you fight to keep them?
And that tells you right there. And then again, jumping timelines, if you knew then what you know now, would you hire them again?
Right.
And if the answer is no, they're not the right person.
Yeah, that's it. It's called the Netflix question. So it's a tool that Netflix developed, for their hiring and firing, and promotion and all that kind of stuff. But those 2 questions, if they told you that they were leaving, would you fight to keep them? It's got to be a yes. Both have to be yes in order to keep them. And if you knew then what you know now, would you hire them again? And if you have no to either of those, then it's probably not a good fit. And I think the bottom line, if I can convey this, you deserve better. You've worked your tail off to get to where you're at right now. If you're a business owner and your name is on the front of checks, not on the back of checks, you're signing people's checks, you deserve for a team who wants to show up and give what they've got. You're not asking for everything from them. They're not going to, bleed your logo colors, right? That's your job. You're the founder. You're the owner. You took the risks to do that, but you deserve a team who's going to show up and give you their all for the time that they're there. And so if you're not getting that from people, have that conversation with them. It's not an easy conversation to have, but you've got to have that conversation. Otherwise, it will lead to resentment down the road. And it's like, what are we doing here? There are people that you can find. And that's kind of leading into, I don't know if we're going to talk about this next, but I want to lead into this. When you make hiring decisions, hire to your core values. You've got to have core values in your organization. And again, I'm not talking about words that are written on the wall. That is important to share what those core values are, but it's about the heart of your organization. What do you want that to be? most people end up with a business that the company culture has been developed on its own, unintentional.
Mm-hmm.
You can be intentional. So when you're hiring people, have the core values, share those core values, and ask questions around how does this show up in your world? If you have a
Yeah.
core value of integrity, you could ask a question during the hiring process. You don't have to say our core value is integrity. How does this show up in your world? You can ask, tell me about a time in your career where you had to make a decision that was the right decision, but was a hard decision to make because it was the right thing to do. Tell me about a time. And if they can't think of anything, or if one of our core values is tenacity and grit. And I tend to ask people, tell me about a time when you had to do something that was really hard and felt impossible and you did it anyway. And if they just draw a blank, they don't have that core value, or likely don't have that core value.
Mm-hmm.
So be aware of that.
So what would you say to someone listening who believes that it's just really hard to find good people? Because we know there's some people are just real disappointing. And especially depending on where you live, the talent pool can be small.
Sure.
So what about that?
I was saying that I don't know where I heard this from. I'm sure somebody coined it, but hire fast, fire fast. So you can't know everything about somebody when you're in an interview process.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing their best job to put their best foot forward. Guess what? So are you. You're trying to attract this talent. So you're sharing all the good, you're not necessarily sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
Right? You're sharing the good and enticing, to the future. So there are something, hire fast. So when it's a good decision, you don't want to sit there and delay. One of our members I was working with, and he took so long to actually to pull the final trigger to hire them, that I had many candidates who were perfect, who they had accepted other offers because it was literally like weeks or even sometimes months in between. So hire fast, like when it's the right decision, pull the trigger and move forward in confidence, but also fire fast when they show up and they are not behaving in the way that you had thought that they would, or that they had indicated they would. Then it's okay to let them go. You could have a probationary period, 90 days, and have official review process before that 90 days is up, where you're measuring and evaluating their performance. Give them a fair shot, but nothing like testing them, to allow that to happen, to come forward. So yeah, you may feel like the talent pool is light where you live, if you live in a small area, but I promise you, there are really good people who are looking for purpose. And if they can fulfill their purpose by working with you to serve your patients, my gosh, like there's nothing better to do than that. What else are they going to do? What other opportunities do you have outside of healthcare and helping people that is more rewarding? You know what I mean? Like, give them an opportunity. People are looking for purpose. Here's the last thing I'll say on this is, there's ancient wisdom that says, where there is no vision, the people perish. And I think that is really, really true. You as a leader in your organization have got to cast a compelling vision of where you're going collectively and individually. And if you can cast a compelling vision for somebody and they can buy into that and they feel a sense of purpose with that, you'll see it on their faces when they show up to work in the morning. And so if you look around your staff and you see emptiness, you see resentment, you see boredom, you see those kinds of things, that's a sign to you, hey, it's time for me to step up. I better create a compelling vision of where we're going and where they're going individually. So it really does kind of fall back to us as leaders. Compelling vision, draw them to it, have your core values, ask yourself, do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity to do it? And do they represent the core values that I have deemed intentionally that we are representing as a company?
So good. And I had a very similar conversation with your sister a few weeks ago on this podcast about how it really does start with you. It comes down to the owner. And if good people are hard to find, then those good people have options and they want to work for somewhere that they can feel excited about and proud of. And so, step into someone else's shoes. Would you feel good walking in every day, having good leadership, having a vision? And if you don't have that, that's where you need to start.
Yes.
So good people, good staff to help you grow, that's often the number one bottleneck when it comes to growing a successful business or a successful practice. So we hope that you will take these tips. If you need help and someone to walk alongside you, of course, we're here. Joe, I know you are just such an asset to our practice owners. Megan, me, like we love working with those people and just helping across the board. So we hope you enjoyed this episode.
I do have one more thing.
Yeah, please.
You got to trust your gut. Like when I encourage people to ultimately let somebody go, they already knew it. They already knew it. And I actually, one of our practice owners, we work with their whole management team doing executive development. They said, Joe, I think you have just helped us to make decisions faster than we normally would have. We knew it was the right thing to do, but you have just given us I can't remember exactly how she said it. You've given us the courage to, or whatever it was, but I'm just telling you, you already know, Doc. You already know the people in your organization who are cancerous and need to be cut out. And you've got to replace them with good people. Your whole organization will elevate when you do that. So trust your gut.
Totally. Great advice.
All right. I couldn't end this without saying that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And Doc, we appreciate you. Please share this episode with your pals if you found value in it. Hit subscribe. We love talking to you, and we can't wait to talk to you again. Until next time, go be a wealth maverick.